Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the Public Facilities Arts and Culture Committee meeting for February 20th. We do not have anyone signed up for public comment, and we only have two resolutions here, so I think they're going to go by fairly quickly, and then we have two guests to talk to us about the potential renovation of Municipal Auditorium. So let's get on through these. I know Mr. Roten would like that to happen expeditiously, so I'm going to go through. I'm here. Councilmember Cap is not. Councilmember Easlick.
I am here.
Thank you, Councilmember Ewing. Councilmember Hancock not here. Councilmember Gadd not present yet. Councilmember Taylor not present. Vice Chair Vo is present. And Councilmember Welsh, my forever seconder. Okay. So, we have a quorum, thank goodness. Let's jump into these resolutions. We have RS 2024-247, Stiles, Porterfield, and Welsh. Acceptance in-kind grants from Friends of Millridge Park to the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation for the design and construction of a barn at Millridge Park, adjacent to the historic Farmhouse Information Center. Can I get a motion?
Move.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you so much. Any discussion? I'm all in favor of it. It's in my district, and I know that everyone is excited about it. So, any other discussion? Great. All in favor? Aye. Fantastic. Any opposed?
I said aye as well.
Excellent. Welcome, Councilmember Cap. Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, I vote for that.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming in on that last one.
I mean, it's 4:02.
Okay, our second resolution is RS 2024-248, Porterfield, Stiles, and Welsh accepts the terms of a cooperative purchasing master agreement for a mobile concert stage for the Parks Department. Can I get a motion?
Move. Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any discussion regarding a new showmobile? Yeah, Vice Chair Vo.
Thank you, Chair. Is this a replacement or is this something new?
Replacement.
So if you want to just
It's a replacement. It was decommissioned 18 months ago, and it should be on, hopefully, it's our number one ask on fleet's list. So hopefully when they do their heavy replacements, this will allow us to buy it without having to go through our own internal processes for competitive bid. This is why Metro's into the co-op contracts to allow us to use other people's competitive bids for this.
Fantastic. And I mentioned, can we get another one? Can we talk about having two? Because the showmobile is super popular and super helpful.
And this one will be much easier to get around because it won't be as heavy as the last one. It's a more aluminum structure, so it's more maneuverable than the last one.
Delightful. Just in case any of you don't know what the showmobile is, it's actually, it looks like a little semi, but it's a stage that if you've rented out space at a park, they'll come and set it up in the street and then it opens up. So it's big enough to put a band in there and have sound. It's pretty awesome. So you don't have to pay for renting a stage. You can use it through parks. Okay. Is there any other discussion? Vice Chair Vo.
Sorry. Yes, thank you. Can you tell us, for the one that was decommissioned, what happens whenever it is, like, will the parts be recycled? Will they be sold back, or are they just thrown away? Can you talk about the sustainability of that?
That would be fleet more than, usually they just put them on eBid and somebody else buys it. After that, I'm not sure what happens to it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Fantastic. Resolution passes. Thank you so very much. That concludes our legislative part of our committee today. We do have two guests. So as you know, our last meeting, we had Blake McDaniel, who is the chair of the Municipal Auditorium Board, and he presented what they've been doing over the last few years to get municipal as a revenue generator. And we now have an opportunity from TVG Group to propose a renovation to the site and a really great opportunity for a public partnership. So at this time, I'm going to introduce Graham Brown and Ryan Murphy. If you could share with us kind of the vision that you have, but also if you could share with everyone here what you have done in Huntsville. And we have several people that are eager to know about the model. Sure. By which you put this together in Huntsville and how it could be duplicative here in Nashville. And thank you, Councilmember Coopin, for coming, as this is also in your district. So Graham and Ryan, you were up.
Well, we appreciate the time. Thanks for having us. We've been talking with the municipal now for the better part of 18 months about trying to come up with a plan that we could find a way to do something. We are a hospitality company that really specializes in the overlap between music venue spaces, so things that are within the four-wall ticket barrier, and then 365 community activation, 365 food and beverage. So a typical site for us is, call it 50% music venue, 50% bars and restaurants, community activation spaces. Totally normal for us to have a site where there's a band sound checking inside in the venue, whilst there's a farmer's market happening, whilst there's a 70th birthday party happening in the wine bar. It's a campus play. Ryan's with me here today. He runs all of our stuff in the city of Huntsville, which we'll talk about in a second, and Nashville would fall under his area. But we do this stuff. We have 3 different sites in the UK, and we have around 10 projects under development nationally, LA through to New York, Detroit, you name it. We're kind of in the mix there. We're a unique operator in this space because we're not the promoter. We work with the promoters. We work with Live Nation, AEG, really anyone. It's called an open room is the term in the music industry, meaning any promoter can come in and rent the room. During the pandemic, we did a fundraise, and all of the promoters I just mentioned invested in us, plus a handful of other sort of gatekeepers in the music industry, people from Red Light Management, Gibson Guitars, sort of something of a who's who. There's 53 different individuals in there. We kind of play Switzerland in the whole eco space of people can come in, use the room. Really, the whole site is monetized through that year-round activation stuff. So it's a pretty simple business model. How do we get people to the site and have them transact in whatever way, shape, or form? I think something of the secret sort of potion that we put together is being able to navigate the promotion space with these sold-out headline concerts like we have at the Orion, the Dave Matthews Bands of the world, the Chris Stapletons of the world, but then the next morning have the free yoga in the park or the boardroom meeting that wants to rent the back of house space. So it's very much a community asset. When we've looked at the market of Nashville, we feel like there's a really great opportunity for someone to do a really wonderful small club here. For such a great music town, the venues, the inventory is actually not the strongest nationally. We think that's an opportunity, and we've been exploring that with a handful of developers here locally. And then we've also think there's an opportunity for someone to come and put a room out there that's larger than the Ascend, but smaller than the Bridgestone. The way that the market currently plays is that there's a bit of a gap there. The jump from the 6,000 at Ascend to the 20,000 at the Bridgestone, or the notion for us is how do we go and land something that's in and around the sort of 8,000 to 9,000 range. And frankly, for us, we'll either find a way to find a path at the municipal, or we'll do it in the private sector. This is all we work on. We do these all the time. We employ about 700 people internationally. This is the sort of asset that we look at. I run all the development for the company, so it's from first conversation through to the customer. So we'd love to find a way to sort of bring the municipal back to something of a former glory, reposition it in the industry. People are excited about it. The various promoters that we've talked to are saying, yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't file that alongside the Ryman as an exciting thing that Nashville can be proud of. We'd love to find a way to do it. I think our ask today, and this, what we've been sort of speaking with Jacob and Joy about, is how do we put together a feasibility proposal to work out what is the current health of the building, what would our true vision be for this, how do we add some year-round bars, restaurants, community spaces, what does it cost to go from where it is today through to that North Star for the site. After we understand the magnitude of that, then let's talk about what a deal could look like. I think we all agree that it's a sizable upgrade. It's probably north of $20 million that we would go and raise in the private markets. To make that happen, we'd likely need a long-term lease with the facility. It needs to be something that's going to, this isn't a charity thing for us, and it certainly wouldn't be in the capital markets. It needs to be something that underwrites and people are excited about the return. So we need to make it competitive, but ultimately what we're trying to get to at the moment is how do we get some hard inputs? What does the CapEx need to look like? What do we think that the current state of the building is? So then we can have a fully fledged conversation about what a deal structure would look like. Pretty common process for us. We do these feasibility all the time in the private markets. We do that, get some hard inputs, then work out what a deal structure could look like, or frankly uncover that the HVAC is too old and you're going to spend all of that $20 million on the foundations and it's not a deal for us. Right? So Ryan, I'll sort of pass it over to you, if you don't mind, just maybe to give the background on what we currently do with the city of Huntsville in Alabama, and maybe some of your background, if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah. So Ryan Murphy, I'm the managing director, cover all of Alabama, Birmingham, Huntsville, and then my family actually lived here in Nashville for the better part of last year, so I'm kind of in between Nashville and Huntsville a lot. Excited about this project because my background, before I joined TVG, I was working for county government for the better part, over a decade in Northeast Florida, St. Johns County. I was the director of cultural events. I ran St. Augustine Amphitheater, which was a 4,800 capacity amphitheater that I brought to life when I first got signed on in 2009. They had just done a $10 million upgrade. It was really only used for community events and festivals. And so I started programming international acts. It became very world acclaimed. It's done great. I oversaw a 900 cap venue, and I did a ton of festivals for the city. And I worked with a ton of artists, nonprofits, local organizations. And I think the model that I set into motion in St. Augustine, especially in St. Johns County, as a county director, was this a public facility that is funded by the taxpayers of St. Johns County. How do I make it as accessible and exciting for them? And so, I also get really bored. So I can't just do the 30, 40 major concerts a year. I have to figure out what's happening Monday through Friday, whether that be a music camp for kids, whether that be different nonprofits, yoga in the bowl. So I started building stages all over. So anyways, fast forward 10 years, I felt really great about what I had done there. I was kind of overworking for the county government at that point in Northeast Florida. And I got with Graham, our partner Ben Lovett, my friend Mike Luba, looking for opportunity. And there was an opportunity in Huntsville, Alabama. And it was to get the contract to design, develop, build, and operate a world-class amphitheater that Huntsville. And there were several people, whether it be Live Nation, AEG, SMG, OVG, different people coming to the table. We were awarded the contract, and I very much believe, well, I know for a fact it's because of that model of how we operated it. And I actually went to the mayor of Huntsville, and I said, before I moved to Huntsville, Alabama with my family, because that seems like a big move for us, I need to know that you understand what we did here in Florida. And so the mayor, he wasn't able to go, but he sent all of the city administration, city council members. They came to Florida, they saw it in action. They saw 2 sold out concerts back to back, a farmer's market, yoga in the bowl, all these nonprofits. They went around the city, asked a ton of questions like, what's the economic impact? Like, what does it feel like to live in a community with something like this? And it was just absolutely beloved. So that gave me the assurance to move to Huntsville. Been there 5 years. We opened in 2022. And as of last week, Billboard magazine named us one of the top 27 venues in the world and the top U.S. amphitheater on the East Coast, which is pretty crazy because we've only been open 2 years. So for Billboard magazine to, unbeknownst to us, just kind of picked us for that, it's pretty incredible. But I do believe it's because we have a strong model of working with Live Nation, AEG, Mammoth, Outback, all a bunch of independent promoters, as well as a bunch of people in the community. And there's not a day where you either go to St. Augustine, but now at the Orion in Huntsville, where there's not something happening. And it's we just did a big economic impact study for the Orion in the last 2 years. It's pretty substantial. The city has really gotten behind us, is really proud of the work we've done. I really like my position because I can speak to the city in a language that they understand, having worked for local government for a decade, as well as having one foot in the entertainment industry. But the open room philosophy is huge. As Graham mentioned, Live Nation, AEG, both aware that we're looking at this project. They think we're a mix of crazy, but also excited that we're looking at this. And in fact, I went to Live Nation earlier today, and they were like, just make sure we're looking at this as the ecosystem. And I said, absolutely, because both Live Nation and AEG having strong roots, but really exciting project. And I think the reason why Blake got excited about it and Joy got excited about it, I think we're the people that walked in the room and kind of saw something that no one else was seeing with the municipal, as opposed to like, we'll just tear it down and put up something really nice. We saw something that could, it's a callback to a time in Nashville that felt exciting, that parts of the community could start getting excited about. It could be used. There's a different model to use it in different ways, so it doesn't feel dormant and it's active. But yeah, that's the exciting part of it.
So you said, pardon me.
Councilmember
Excuse me, Chair.
Ewing.
Thank you. Okay, you said a mixture of crazy and inspiring. What's the crazy part?
I think the crazy part is the fact that I think most people go in there, because I'll give you my candid opinion of things in Nashville, having been here in Huntsville. I love coming to Nashville and seeing that era of Nashville that I fell in love with. And then there's a lot of glass and steel, and there's a lot of things going up that doesn't call back to that, which is fine, it has a purpose. But in the music world, there's a lot of that across the country. In Nashville and Austin, where Graham's from, there's a push to really restore and to kind of capture that era. And that could be because it's a destination play and people I want that. When I walk around the Municipal and I see those old ticket stuff, like there's a history there. And we've talked about it in the same way like the Ryman has, like, oh, you could have Elton John's coat behind glass because he played here in 1987 or like stuff like that. Like that's the kind of stuff that I think we saw, but I think the people that we know in the industry and they're just like, just wipe the slate clean. And for X amount of millions of dollars, just put up something with all the bells and whistles. And you know, it's like, so they thought the same thing about us in Huntsville with the Orion. It's a city that's very cutting edge, very technologically driven, all this biotech and aerospace and everything. So if you build the amphitheater there, it might look like a rocket ship, or it might look like something space age, but instead we built like a Roman Colosseum. Like it's the oldest looking thing in Huntsville. So that was, again, we just like, we looked at it and what would capture people's like love and imagination. And I think that's why they think, because these people, especially the people in Nashville, they see the other stuff kind of bubbling up and they go, this is where we're pushing, just bulldoze what you can. And I think we walked in, we go, this is really cool. You know, and again, Blake McDaniel going, you get it. And I was like, yeah, I see something. Yeah, I think that's where that comment comes from. Yeah.
Councilmember Gadd.
I have two questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for you all being here and also inviting them to come back in. So thank you again for all the work you do. Yeah, I think you addressed some of this on the model, which is kind of fascinating. We can talk after this. We don't have to spend all of our time here. But so the model is you go out and raise, after you do assessment on the cost of the work that would need to be done, and whatever that visioning is, but the essential work, and then you go out and raise the money privately. So how do you make a profit? Where's that money? How do you get reimbursed or funded?
Well, yeah, so it kind of depends on what the magnitude of the funding would be, but on other deals that we've done, from like a joint venture we have with Live Nation in LA, or a project that we have in Detroit with Bedrock, for example, we're able to go out and say, we need X amount of dollars for the tenant fit out component. This will be more sizable because it's really all of the works, but over a long, call it 20-year lease, 30-year lease, how do we, like a structure that would work here would be that you pay a reduced rent to the city until we have recuperated X amount of dollars or X amount of return, and then there's some sort of profit split. So there's a variety of mechanics to do it.
Okay.
And one of my partners is a finance guy. That's all he does. He's from Wall Street. He very much knows these markets. How do we go and raise like cultural infrastructure or capital to put on this? So variety of mechanisms, but ultimately it will be, how do we get the thing up, propped up, know that we're going to do 100 concerts a year and 200 other events a year where we sell food and beverage at. That's ultimately
Okay. Thank you for that kind of brief. I know it's a much more complex response, so thank you for that kind of brief that allows me to kind of understand.
Yeah.
Next question is, you mentioned the feasibility, well, maybe feasibility proposal, but I think what I would love to know as you're moving forward, and this could be a follow-up and it could be something by email, but as you alluded to, there's a lot in Nashville that's new Nashville and owned by larger companies when it comes to event venues. And so I'm curious of what if there's going to be a larger study, and this may be what you do, about what is it the creative community actually needs when it comes to the music space, the entertainment. We've had some venues that have historically been independent, and they would bring in, younger acts or more diverse acts, or folks that, maybe wouldn't get a stage elsewhere. And so, to me, I think it could be a really exciting opportunity, with, some commitments to ensuring that. And so it seems like Nashville's losing a lot of that. And so this could be a potential. It sounds like there's some consideration for that arrangement.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of curious if you're gonna do, like, engage parts of the community to kind of do that inventory of what's needed and what the, yeah.
That's it, yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing that sets us apart. So it's such a important pillar, and it's engaging so many aspects of the community, the nonprofits, the local organizations, especially the young aspiring artists. And I think in Huntsville, we've really achieved that. Like, I'm proud that we have, Dave Matthews and Neil Young and Lana Del Rey. Like, those concerts are great, especially for North Alabama. It's phenomenal. But to have, like, the different Pride events or Cultura, the Hispanic community in North Alabama, we didn't realize how much that was needed until we kicked off an event, and it was thousands of people. And we were like, okay, now we know what we need to lean into. So we have a whole department that I oversee that's cultural and community events, and that's all they're doing is just out there. They're meeting with the city, all the stakeholders, all the nonprofits. They're constantly going to all the organizations and going, what platform have you not had? And how can we help you? Like, what we do really well, I feel like, is we identify the funding as well. We go, there's some people who will underwrite this. There's a sponsor who would love to put their name on this Cultura event. And all of a sudden the people go, we have the space and the funding. We love you. And we go, great. You're our insurance that, we're gonna be beloved in this community and understood in what we're doing. So.
Anyone else have any questions for our guests? I'm biased. I'm very excited. I've been to the Orion. I've seen what the space looks like, and how it's set up outside is where you can have free concerts. And so maybe you don't have tickets to what's happening in Orion, but then they have pavilions right outside where you could come and listen to your local singer-songwriter and still enjoy the night. And then when the concert comes out, people can come out and there's still more music to be had afterwards. So it's a great way to see large artists and small artists kind of working together, even if it's kind of a weird byproduct, per se.
Yeah, and to that point, I think it's nice. We had to calculate it, but last year we hired it was like 380-something local artists that we had hired to perform, which you wouldn't really see that until you're actually looking at. But after Chris Stapleton, we had a whole string of local songwriters playing, so as people were leaving, they could stick around and see. So that's a big piece of it, that understanding that those free concerts and engaging that local music community is a huge piece of it, for sure.
Vice Chair Vogt.
Thank you, Chair. Could you give us just an example, from your community engagement, what is something you all did not expect to have, or an event that was successful, or maybe it wasn't?
So far, they've all been successful. There's because I tried to take what worked in North Florida and try to apply it to North Alabama, but North Alabama is way more diverse. And so all of a sudden I had, wow, there's a huge Persian community who wants to celebrate like a Persian New Year. Or there were certain things that so we'll scale. So the Cultura, the Hispanic Heritage Festival, we kind of put it in a smaller area year one, but that's when thousands of people showed up and we went, oh crap, we need to expand this. And now we're talking about doing something in the larger venue, which is 8,000 capacity. And that, what I love about that, whether it be Rocket City Pride organization or the Hispanic community, they've been very vocal, and at city council meetings saying we finally have a space where we feel like we can be us and welcome. And that just felt like such a win. So those were, I don't have any bad examples, to be honest. Nothing's failed.
Congratulations.
Something will, of course.
That's
Nice to be
very unique.
Yeah.
I appreciate you both coming because they actually came in from out of town to be here to talk to us, and I think it certainly demonstrates a commitment to wanting to work with us. I think personally, more opportunities for us to do public-private partnerships where we actually can get things that are good for the city going make a lot of sense. And if you ever have some renderings and you want to show, please let me know. You want to come back and show the committee, that would be pretty awesome. In the meantime, does anyone else have any other questions? Councilmember Coopin.
Thank you for allowing me to join today. Chair, could you speak a little bit to what next steps would look like if we feel like we want to do this, we want to do the feasibility study? Where would that funding come from? What would we do as next?
Well, thank you, Councilmember Coopin. So we'll backtrack a little bit. May have already been talking to these fine gentlemen as we did our CIBs, and when we sat down at the very beginning of this year, we talked about what our goals were to attack for public facilities, arts, and culture. And municipal was one of the items that came up and has been on our list. So as we did the capital improvements budget, several of us included municipal auditorium and money for a feasibility study. So our public part of the public-private partnership could get going. So we know what do you need and what are we expecting when you say that you're going to raise funds. So now we cross our fingers and hope, when the list comes out, that money towards municipal is there. If not, as we go into the budget season, if the mayor puts forth a budget and it doesn't include the municipal auditorium, then when we put forth our substitute budget and we each have our individual CIB worksheets, we can fight for that. And ultimately, if collectively we all say, we really want this, and other people see the benefit, then that's how we end up getting it in the final budget, and we'd be able to move forward. I think what has been frustrating for me is how many things in the city that fall under the purview of this committee have been left alone and just assumed it's going to be okay, and they've been functioning with bubblegum and spit, so we should just let them keep functioning with bubblegum and spit. And the municipal is such an amazing gem for us to actually have an investment in that product. I think we would have even more acts coming in. We'd have better acoustics and an opportunity to make more money, which is what we're always looking for. So we're leaving money on the table right now. Does that answer your question, Councilmember Cooper?
Perfect.
Delightful. Well, if there is nothing else, then...
One thing that I actually missed,
yes?
sorry, it's probably
Brown?
against the protocol. We should have said how much we love having the Musicians Hall of Fame as a co-tenant in the basement. And just so it's totally clear, the goal would be to keep that and make that more robust and make that front and center of all things that we do. Just as a
Fantastic.
step.
And could you speak a little bit to... Is there anything that's an impediment to doing anything extra? Can you go vertical? Is it that you're just working on the interior of the building?
There's a lot. We have a lot of unknowns, I would say, currently. So the part of the feasibility is we have a whole squad of consultants that would come in and do a facility check the foundations, the structural, the MEP, et cetera, but the notion is very much to add multiple outlets that will be open 365. So is that a place to grab a cup of coffee? Is that a place to grab a nightcap? To be determined. Let's get in and understand where the grease traps are or are not and how we upgrade that. Certainly the concessions in the concourse at the moment are a little sort of 1980 high school vibe. So I'm sure we would try to, that's our big, the Orion, we set all sorts of spend per head records because we've really elevated the concessions. So it's a very easy place to justify the investment because people are going to be there. Within the facility itself, within the auditorium, has not the best reputation, I would say, currently within the touring community. So I think we'll have to spend some real capital there to make sure it's as good as a brand new facility in any other city. So going vertical, not so much. I would say keep the bones where they are and let's try to add some more elements to it. But so much of the whole purpose here is to how do we get firm footing on what works we would do, what would it cost, and maybe we have to add one restaurant because we couldn't afford both of them or whatever, but let's try to get this to a place where we could actually really discuss a deal.
And do you have a guesstimate on the cost of a feasibility study? Are you still investigating that? I know.
We have it, yeah. I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's like 180 grand or 190 grand or something, but that's with architects and structural and a whole series of folks. Thankfully, we use so many of these groups on projects all over the country all the time. It's kind of a friend and family rate, as it were. I know that one of the groups is the same group that the city used for their assessment of the Bridgestone before they looked at if they were going to do a new facility or reinvest into the current facility. And yeah, their starting price was quadruple that, and then we said, whoa, if you want to work with us on other future deals, let's get real about the pricing. So yeah, I think it's a competitive deal, but it's real work. It's probably a 90 to 120 days work that needs to be done.
Chairman, I don't have a question, but
okay.
just a comment. I'd love to thank you for being here again, but I'd also love to see, hopefully you're moving along through all the steps and a commitment to perhaps diverse folks that are perhaps vendors and, whether they're the coffee shop. And we have just wonderful folks who own black and brown folks who own, coffee shops or food places, hospitality places that would be wonderful vendors. So, a commitment to that would be, I think, something that we would all really enjoy to see.
Certainly.
And, I think that's great. Appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you very much. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion. Okay.
I want to say the word motion,
All
because I
right.
was like I said, so
Meeting
moved.
adjourned.